gone? Page 180. Finally, we can talk about the thing. Oh my God. But guys, if you don't know what the thing is because you haven't watched The Last of Us episode 2, stop listening right now. Stop listening right now because we are going into the spoilerverse on episode 2 of The Last of Us season 2, where it was a big episode that people who kind of knew what was coming were waiting on, and we've got to it and we can finally breathe and have full discussions about what happened. I'm going to be joined by the one and only, well, I am being joined currently. He's not like coming to me from the future. He's on the line now. The one and only Kev Ger of Fan Club joining us from the road, brother.
From the road, man.
Up and down the road. Did you ever see when wrestlers do those promos? It's one of my least favorite wrestling promos. And you can spot it coming a mile off where they're like, "We used to travel up and down the road together, man.
Back
What
in the
happened?"
territories.
Yeah. But he is joining us from the road, brother. How is the road going up and down?
The road is long and traveled and a bit weary, but because I'm 37 now, so it's not as easy as it used to be, but it's good.
I hear.
We're no, the tour is going great. Fucking selling out shows, and yeah, just can't be happier with how it's going, man. So we got one more day left in Cork this week on Friday. If people are about in Cork,
Are there any there's tickets left?
There are limited tickets left for Cork yet, but it's nearly sold out as well.
How would one get their hands on tickets, Kevin, if one were interested?
Well, tickets are available on Ticketmaster or through links on our Instagram at Fan Club Band Official.
That's really interesting. I think I may check that out. That sounds like quite the proposition.
So, Tom,
there
if
we
you're
go.
back from Canada yet down in Cork, you can. I expect to see you there, man.
He will actually be, yeah. So he's going to feel really bad when he hears this if he can't make it. So, Tom, you're representing page 180. I can't get there. I'm just finished WrestleMania. I'm bollocks, lads. I need my bed. But Tom, you're representing page 180. I'm calling you out now. But it's an absolute banger. And if you ever get a chance to see Fan Club Live, I recommend it. It is like amazing. Totally different experience as well. From I'll always say this about you guys. Like the studio stuff is amazing. But then the live stuff hits just in a different way, and it's like hearing the songs you really like, but in a totally like fucking a new experience. I love it. So yeah, check it out. Fan Club, check them out on Spotify if you can't make the live shows as well. We got the plugs out of the way. There we go. That's good as well. But well deserved. I'm glad to hear the tour's going well. Guys, just when I thought I was getting out, just when I thought I was going to have a nice long break because WrestleMania was in the Woolshed all weekend. You can probably hear my voice is still not fully recovered from it, but it was an amazing weekend, and thanks to all who attended the most successful Low Blows events, the event of all time yet. So that's incredible. Thank you again to everyone who made it such. But just as I thought I was getting out, I'm back in because we have The Last of Us back. One of our favorite shows, the shows that started. Kev, when we first launched this podcast, it was me, yourself, and another Kev who we got rid of because it was just confusing. We can only have a one Kev quota now on page 180.
Gabriel Luna kind of got onto us as well. So,
it was us talking about season 1, and we're back for season 2. So we have to have our weekly chats as well. We're going to be getting Tom in the mix for some of them as well too. And we've got Andor coming up at the end of the week as well. So really exciting times. Kev, it's intense. Like, how have you been even keeping up with television being on the road? Like, we both love Black Mirror, for example. They have a new season. Did you get to actually watch that? We won't get it. We're gonna get into spoilers about The Last of Us, but we're like, if we're talking about other shows, we won't get into spoilers. Don't worry. But have you even got a chance to watch the new Black Mirror yet?
Yeah, I've been. It's one of my favorite shows. So as soon as it kind of gets released, I want to get it kind of watched before it gets spoiled. I won't go into spoilers now at all, but I do think this is very much a return to form for me for Black Mirror, compared to like especially like last season and even the season before that. I think the quality episodes is a much higher standard. This one, in particular, there's one called Eulogy with Paul Giamatti in it that I love that episode so much. That's my fave of the season. How about you?
Yeah, I did a video on it where I ranked the episodes. If anyone has seen it, it is spoilery. But I ranked the episodes based on the world that I'd like to live in most to least. And Eulogy was actually kind of bad because I'm like, I don't want someone telling me about the mistakes I made and shit. Like, so it was interesting. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I agree with you. It was a return. It felt like Black Mirror was getting into it because they started that whole Red Mirror stuff where they were kind of doing horror type episodes, which
Oh
the episodes
yeah.
themselves weren't bad in season 6, but like it just didn't feel like the same
Mm.
show. Whereas I think they've kind of heard the feedback and kind of taken it on and back to form. And obviously we have a sequel episode in this, the first one they've done in Black
But
Mirror,
technically,
USS Callister.
technically two sequels. We've is it gameplay it's called or
Oh, the
game themed,
Bandersnatch. Yeah, yeah,
which is
yeah.
a bit it's a semi sequel to Bandersnatch,
It's a
which is
tie-in.
yeah,
Yeah.
which I really appreciated as well.
The one thing I'll say is that they've really taken the whole like I don't know the words, but you know the little like virtual reality thing you put in your foreheads that they introduced in San Junipero? It
Yes.
seems like that's the only new technology that exists because everything is based around having that now.
And
It's the
everybody
only
seems
thing.
to live in Junipero somewhere as well. Every address
Yeah.
seems to be that.
Yeah, and I don't mind it. San Junipero is a banger episode, but like you can do more, lads, as well. Like so,
Mm,
I enjoyed the episode, so I think they've got enough going, and I think 6 episodes is exactly the right amount. I don't want
yeah,
them kind of pushing it to 10, 11, and then having some shit episodes. I think every episode they're varying quality, and you definitely, and this is always the way with Black Mirror. You'll have your favorite episode, and you'll have the one you're never going to think about again. Um, but like it's all kind of worth watching while you're doing it. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Big Charlie Brooker fan. I'm
yeah.
glad you got a chance to catch up on the road, going up and down.
We're up and down, man.
Another show that we have talked about before, and we both appreciated in the past but had difficult opinions on. So it was perhaps unsurprising for us to hear that Mythic Quest, of course, by the makers of Always Sunny, which is one of probably both of our favorite shows of all time,
Mm,
Mythic Quest have been cancelled after a divisive season 4, which we'd kind of said on this. We're like, have they run out of road? It feels like they've kind of told the story and now they're just rewriting it, which I guess Apple TV ended up sharing that opinion and they're done. They ended up releasing a new alternate ending that kind of ticks and ties it off better because season 4 ended on like a massive cliffhanger if you actually gave a shit about it, although it was something that we had spoken about and seen coming and had stated very clearly we didn't give a shit about and actively didn't want to see happen.
yeah.
I haven't got a chance to watch it yet. Have you? And is it worth going back and checking out if like because the fact that I haven't checked it out shows how checked out on the show I am because
Yeah.
it's literally yeah. Is it worth
I
a
did
while?
check it out. It's not worth a while, if I'm being
No.
honest. It is a minute and a half to 2 minutes they've changed
All right.
at the very, very end. It's like you could just go onto YouTube. I'm sure it's up on YouTube there, and you could just see it. It's 2 minutes out of your life, and it really doesn't change a massive amount about it.
Okay.
In fact, I kind of think it's nearly worse than the actual ending
Okay.
that
Yeah.
they put in it. It didn't, and it's one of the only shows as well that I can think of that they retroactively changed an ending on after
Mm,
it's been cancelled, and it just was like, okay, well, I guess you'd filmed this so you can tack it on now, but I don't think it was worth it.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. It showed
I
out a
thought
lot
I
of
thought
potential. I think the first 3 series are definitely worth watching if you want the comedy show. Um, but yeah, the fourth season just didn't have the juice left, and it was very clear. So I think this is the
yeah,
right call, and let everyone focus on making Always Sunny as good as possible. I'm very happy with that. So yeah,
that's also
that's
true. Actually, to
yeah.
be fair, so side quest was something that I had no interest in, and I was like bored one of the days, and I was like, I'll give one of the episodes a go, and they were genuinely better than season 4. I
Okay.
thought anyway.
Okay.
I thought they were interesting little side stories.
I might if I have time. There's so many shows on now though this year, so I don't know if I'm gonna have
Yeah.
the time. But
If you get a
if
lull,
yeah, if I get a
then
lull, I might. But I also am quite happy to be done with the Mythic
yeah,
Quest universe. I've
I
got
get
my
that.
fun out of it, and that's all that matters. Anyway, We're not here to talk about them. We're here to talk about The Last of Us, and we're going to talk about episode 2. So this is your final spoiler warning. We're going into the spoilerverse. We're going to spoil everything that's been on television so far. I'm going to make one key caveat, okay? If you are just watching the TV show and haven't played the games, we will have a video game chat, but it'll be at the very end, and we'll give you plenty of notice. We're not going to be dipping in and out of video game chat like as we speak. We will talk as if we just based on the show as far as our episode conversation, but then we'll have the video game chat at the end. So you don't have to worry if you're caught up on it. You're safe, and we're not going to spoil anything that lies ahead or kind of hint or indicate anything like that. But if you haven't watched the episode, it is your last chance because it's a big episode and it's one you don't want to hear from me and Kev. Like, you might want to hear us analyze it, but you don't want to hear like this is the twist and that's how you learn it. So please, 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 this is your final warning. We're going in to discuss it. And before we do, as we always do when we go into the spoilerverse, we're going to bring it back to where we are. We're going to reset the scene and we're going to recap the episode that was with our alternate recap of The Last of Us, Season 2, Episode 2, Through the Valley. And we begin with Abby awakening from a nightmare of her warning her past self not to walk in on her dead father's corpse to find her friends, realizing that Jackson is a fully resourced city and trying to talk her down from her brutal revenge plans, which I guess is like a tough sell on short notice. Like, what was Owen planning to say to her? He's like, some people find that like yoga is really good for like what? Like, she's come this far. Like, if you want to talk her down earlier than this. Ahead of heading out on patrol, Jesse takes Ellie to Tommy running the most jovial, we're probably all gonna die town hall meeting ever. They were just having the lols ahead of the impending doom. It was a very weird tone altogether. After that, the bigoted Seth tried to apologize for his homophobia to Ellie with steak sandwiches, which is the most Trumpy apology ever, I think. It's like, hey, trans people, you can't play sports anymore, but we got sandwiches. America has sandwiches again. Make sandwiches great again. But no, you still can't play sports, trans people. Like, it's like, that's not an apology. That doesn't right the wrong. Abby's recon mission is interrupted by an army of the undead so intense, it would make the Night King say, holy fucking shit, lads. But fortunately, she's rescued from the horde conveniently by the one person she was looking for in Joel. Meanwhile, in Jackson, the bells ring, meaning Operation Old People Go to the Basement. Shooters Try Not to Shoot Yourself in the Foot is in effect as the horde breaches the wall. Tommy and Maria both look like gunners at different times as Bloater sets his sight on them. Bloaters have a really uncanny ability to be able to tell who the main character is in any given situation and focus all of their attention specifically on that person. But fortunately, Tommy has just enough ammo left in his flamethrower to see the bloater off well. Maria initiates the good boy protocol and unleashes all of the dogs in the town who finish off the rest of the infected. It was a sad day in Jackson if you were in a non-speaking role, though. Rest in peace to many of our fallen redneck communists. Abby convinces Joel to come back to the lodge with her and her mates, where he has just the worst sleepover ever. Dina actually does get a decent nap, to be fair, but Joel is actually left sleeping forever after he finds out that Abby's dad was the doctor, posing absolutely zero threat to him while operating on Ellie at the end of season 1. Tragically, Ellie shows up to witness Joel's face getting treated like a Rory McIlroy golf ball at Augusta, and just like that, we can all update our shocking TV death references from the Red Wedding to this, and that was The Last of Us, Season 2, Episode 2, Through the Valley. Take a fucking bow, director Mark Mylod. You did the thing. I'm kind of indicating how I felt about this episode. I don't think we're really going to build much tension in, oh, but was this good? This was an episode, obviously, we were waiting for. I finally know how viewers of Game of Thrones who had read the books and were looking forward to the Red Wedding feel like, and the expectations that I had of this, and I know you had of this. We've kind of been speaking about this since our season 1 conversations. How do you feel they pulled it off? Did it live up to the hype that you had? Because again, was the episode good? Yes, the episode was great. I think we probably both agree on that. But there's a difference between weighing that up against your expectations. Talk to me about that kind of gap? Did it meet your expectations? Did it fulfill them? Did it surpass them? What are we talking?
Oh, a million times surpassed my expectations. Now, I didn't think we were going to get this episode to maybe, with the Bill episode last one, it was episode 3, and I thought maybe The Last of Us is going to have their third episode as their biggin. So I wasn't expecting this at all this week, and I was just brought on like an insane roller coaster. Like it just didn't stop the episode from the start. It just kept on going and going and going. And I thought I'd seen every zombie trope on a movie and TV shows from like The Walking Dead and other zombie movies. That sequence of Abby falling down the mountain and running from the horde to the fence being knocked over and crawling through, my heart was in my mouth the entire time of that. I loved that sequence. I thought it was like one of the more scarier zombie sequences that I've seen, of just the intensity of it. Yeah, it blew me away. I absolutely adored it.
When I first heard, because again, we knew and loved The Last of Us as a story and a property before it kind of aired, and you do have that wonder about when something gets adapted, is it the right kind of way? And any Harry Potter fans will know how that feels right now as we're getting kind of
Yeah.
cast announcements, and you're just like, I don't know if this is going to be good. I don't know how this is going to work. But some things just fit. And you kind of wonder, are they going to make The Last of this has to be adapted somehow, but how do you do it? Do you make it into a movie? Do you do this? And then when it was announced that it's going to be a HBO show, I think a lot of us just went, yes, you've got it. That's the way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is why we had that feeling.
Yeah.
This is exactly why we were excited about this, because it maximized this amazing, gut-wrenching, important storytelling moment that lived within all of us who knew the kind of existing canon and had these expectations. But what they did with this episode was they not only gave us that and pulled it off, and we'll get more specific on how and why, but then they just value added in a way that this is the episode where Joel dies. And it's a show that we have other characters that we care about this show, but it's a double header show. It's Joel and Ellie. That's The Last of Us story. It is about the two of them, and one of them is dying at the start of a new season, and you're meant to feel like, what the fuck are they gonna do? It's supposed to hit as hard, if not harder, than any of the deaths of Game of Thrones. So they didn't need to do anything else.
Yeah.
But what they did was they gave us an episode that at times it reminded me of so many of my favorite Game of Thrones episodes, particularly Hardhome. Like
Yeah.
in terms of it reminded me of the Night King, like when Jon Snow was with the wildlings in the snow and the horde attacked all of a sudden, and you're like, oh fuck. Then it reminded me of kind of the best elements. This is an episode that gets a lot of slack, and I get why, but there's a lot to like about this, particularly the technical style and a lot of the kind of machinations of it. It reminded me of all the best elements of the Battle of Winterfell, where they're defending against kind of the Night King's army. And then they ended on with a death on par with the Red Wedding. And here's the thing. I'm saying that as if it's some big thing, and it is. It's huge to be able to say that. I think this is bigger than the Red Wedding, because as shocking as spoiler for Game of Thrones season 3, if you haven't seen, like, if you don't know what this is, I'm not apologizing for spoiling the Red Wedding on you. Bruce Willis is dead all along. Robb Stark died. Like, come on, there's certain things you should it's your own fault if you get spoiled in certain things. But this, like, the Red Wedding was, Robb Stark was a big character in Game of Thrones, but it's not, Game of Thrones is an ensemble show. You just killed 50% of the main characters in this show, in this move. And what we're not feeling, and maybe this is the advantage of knowing the story. Again, I experienced everything in Game of Thrones. I have gone back and retrospectively read the books, but like when I experienced it for the first time in a TV show, that was the first time that I knew that this person was dying and so on. But what we have here is when someone would shockingly die on Game of Thrones, we'd always be like, the conversation on the Monday would be, how are they going to do the show without this person? Until we eventually knew that they can keep doing this with, they can kill people off and they'll find a way to replace them and we'll still care. Um, but I don't feel any of that, and I'm not hearing any of that, even from non-fans. And that is a testament to the trust this show has built with its audience to be able to kill off a character. Because even when you like, and again, we're not going to do video game discussion, but when you play it in the game, you feel that you're like, how is this going to be a game now? Like, what do we do from here? And I just don't feel that with this. I'm just like, and I know what's coming, obviously, and I know that they've got loads of story to tell, and it's a great story. Last of Us Part 2 is a masterpiece, but like, the fact that no one is worried about this and everyone's just like, that was great, that was amazing, they nailed it. And like, we were so worried coming into this about the toxic discourse that this would do, and they've just sidestepped it. They've just like people aren't pissed. They just think it's great. That's such an achievement. That's incredible.
I think there's a number of factors though as well where I do think it's I am a little worried
Okay.
um about where the show is going to go or how it's going to go with audiences because I
Okay.
think it's I think from the performance aspect, um, Ellie is very reactive
Mm.
to Joel for the last season and with that one episode as well, and she doesn't have that. I don't think as much anymore, and it's going to be interesting to see is this going to be a new version of Ellie. I think
Yeah. Oh, it
going
is.
forward, and the trust that Craig Mazin and Neil have in her, I think, as an actress and as the character as well, without having Joel to kind of fall back on. And they've never steered us wrong before, but I also can't help but just be just the slightest bit worried about kind of where it's going to go. But I I do have faith in them and have Bella Ramsey then as well. So I think she is great, but she's just been very reactive so far, and I'm interested to see another side of her. I think kind of going forward.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. It's
but yeah, right. It's
talk
for
to me
those.
about how they executed though. Like, let's talk about that specifically. Because for me, part of the reason I'm not worried is, remember when Bella Ramsey got cast and everyone was worried about them kind of being able to portray hashtag not my Ellie and all that. And then in season one, we're like, they've got this. Like,
Yeah.
Bella is all over it. For me, Caitlin Denver, this was her moment where we're okay. Like, everyone's like, but she's not big. Like, Abby's supposed to be. Like, there was that like concern from the kind of toxic element of the gaming community. And I get, like, I'm not even saying that if you felt that way it was toxic. It's not. Like, I do get it. Um, but to me, it was like, no, this is why she was here. Like, Caitlin Denver was actually um initially the person that Neil Druckmann wanted to cast as Ellie, but then she just outgrew the
Okay.
role before
Yeah.
Bella Ramsey got cast. Um, so it's interesting that um like, I think she earned her chops in this episode. And I think that's the kind of achievement that's here. There's a lot, but like, for you, let's talk about the moment and what led up to it in terms of like, why did this work so well in terms of Joel's death? Why, how did they pull it off? Why do you think they pulled it off?
I think spending that little bit of time with Abby and having, I guess it was like because of last season, or not the last season, last episode, of giving us that little insight of like that doctor was her dad, and kind of just prepping us for that in advance. If you're a HBO fan or you're a fan of Game of Thrones, which I think I'd say it's a fair amount of people that do watch the show were Game of Thrones fans,
Mm,
actions have consequences in the world. And
yes.
like Ned Stark is the best example, I think, of that as well from a season one shock death. Spoilers of Game of Thrones, of course, from season fucking one. But to me, because I'd not read the books at all at that stage. And Ned Stark, I remember being one of like the TV defining moments to me of like, oh, they've just killed off the main character. What the hell are we gonna do? Um, I think giving Abby that reasoning, um, I think is enough for people to be like, okay, I mean, it's fucked up what she did and how she did it, but actions do have consequences, and this is the kind of world we're in. Um, and I think people are much more open to the idea now um of shock, not even a shock death, but like nobody's safe in some of these worlds anymore. I think it's a bit more of an established trope that people are okay with because they.
Yeah, yeah. I think people come for it. Like, I think that's a really, really good point. In video games, when someone dies, like when Joel dies, you don't get to play as him anymore. But in TV, it's a feature, not a bug. You know what I mean? In
Yeah.
a game, it might be a bug because I like playing as this person. I've literally walked in this person's shoes. But in a TV show, it's like, holy shit, what are they gonna do? And we've built enough. Like HBO have built credibility with doing the likes of this with Game of Thrones that were like, it's usually grand, and
Yeah.
people who know to do this and don't do it as a stunt usually have a good reason behind it. I think as well, like certain elements that worked for me in this, if we want to get specific, I want to give a shout out to Pedro Pascal. I think he absolutely fucking nailed it. We're watching this coming to it from Abby's perspective, which I think is a genius story move by Druckmann and Mazin to bring us in earlier on the Abby story. I don't disagree. Like it's structured differently to the game, but I don't disagree with the choice here because they flipped the perception of the viewer on it by letting us in on the whys of why she's doing what she's doing. Um, and then obviously we go through this horrific scene that you spoke about, like where she's running away from the undead. And then when we meet Joel, like we're not seeing Joel from the way we're used to seeing him because Joel is our perspective character. He's the first character that we meet that's in the show that survives to this point. Whereas now that'll probably shift to Ellie. But he's not our perspective character in this sequence. We're literally, the camera is looking at him from Abby's perspective in terms of the camera's on the ground and Joel is facing upwards, okay? And Pedro slightly alters his performance to seem harsher. He's shouting, he is helping and doing Joel things, but he's different. And that's all you can put your finger on. Like, if you didn't know what was going to happen, it's like, that's different. And it's just a slight different way that we have it. And then you have Caitlin Denver's brilliant speech as Abby to kind of set the scene, which again, they're doing that as full exposition, which can be cheesy if it's not done amazingly. And it was done amazingly, fortunately, here. And kind of gives you all you need to know. And then the choice to have Joel take all this in, and the way Pedro did that performance, right? You could see so much in what he's doing. And I spoke about this even last week when we were looking back on episode 1. You can see him just working through multiple different emotions and then arriving at the emotion that he gets to, which is usually actually a bad emotion in Joel. Like last week when we saw him in the therapist session, he worked through all of the things when she asked him and made him relive what he'd done to save Ellie. But then the last emotion he arrived on was, I saved her, go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? That's where Joel went emotionally. And while he's listening to Abby's speech, we can see the understanding of the situation. I'm going to die here. There's nothing I can say that can make this better. The weighing up of the shame that he feels as she makes him live and like kind of visually see the consequences of what he's done to her in her life. We can see that shame play out. We can then see him accepting that he's going to die. And then we can see him kind of like arrive at the wrong emotion at the end, because actually his response to Abby's speech was, shut the fuck up and just do it already. Which is a horrendous response to anyone who's telling you about the worst moment of their life and how you caused it. You know what I mean? Imagine you like, you're like, Ger, when you punched me in the face, it really hurt me. And then I just go, shut the fuck up. Like, it's a horrendous response. And at that stage, you're actually on Team Abby. you're like, yeah, fuck him, kill him. You know what I mean? And we care about Joel so much, and you're probably more on Team Abby then. Um, but the story here, and this is what's crucial, is it's not actually about Abby versus Joel. This is the point that we learned that the story is Abby versus Ellie. And what makes you flip maybe away from Team Abby, while you can definitely sympathize with the emotions that led her to want to kill Joel, is the fact that she makes Ellie watch. And Ellie
Yeah.
has to experience this. And Ellie is the person that we're then channeling our love and grief into Joel for. And that's what we feel bad for. I thought it was just perfect. It was masterful. A nod as well to the creators who were just showing off by the end. They had the song Through the Valley play as kind of Ellie and Jesse go away with Joel's corpse. And that's being sung by Ashley Johnson, who is the voice of Ellie in the video
I
game,
did not know
but
that.
also in the
That's
show
great.
played Ellie's mom. And I'm like, you're just showing off at this stage, lads.
Yeah.
But I hear it. It's brilliant. It's such an amazing little touch. Like and I listened to the podcast that they did when they're talking about this episode, and it's like this song is being sung by the person who played the only other person who cared for Ellie as much as Joel did, and they're both dead, and
Oh
that
my
is
God.
crushing. And it's like this show is just operating on a different level. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? I noticed you perked up a little bit when I said you're on Team Abby when she kills Joel.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of felt like when Joel says just get it fucking over with, I felt like that was an audience um perspective of like just fucking do it. We're sick of hearing this. Just do it.
Tell me, yeah, so tell me about your fucking grief. Jesus Christ, like,
Because
bit
like
heavy.
we're and I know we talked about it at the end of season one of like Joel's actions and how, the consequences he's gonna face because these are like he was an innocent person, unarmed. But at the same time, we're all like rooting for Joel the entire time. So if you've not played the game and weren't aware of the death coming up, you kind of would be on Team Joel, being like, "Yeah, shut the fuck up and let just let Joel get out of this." I was kind of like, I thought that was great. I also loved in a most heartbreaking fashion as well when Eddie's telling him to get up, and it's just he can just move his fingers, and even on it, like his deathbed, he's trying to just get to her, and he just
Yeah.
physically can't. Oh my God, that broke me. Just it's just a finger movement, and the look on his face was like, this is all I can muster, but I'm still trying. That was a beautifully heartbreaking moment as well. I was interesting as well. The rest of the of her group were some of them, I guess, were a bit taken aback. They wanted to kill Joe, fine, but they were very taken aback at how she was doing it, and none of them tried to stop her, which I thought was kind of a bit interesting as well. Even though you could see they were clearly very uncomfortable with it. Except the medic, I can't remember her name, who
Yeah.
did treat Dina
Dina.
as well, and she put her to obviously put her to sleep then as well. She was the only one that seemed a little bit like as sadistic as Abby about Joel's death.
You think?
Yeah, there was a. I thought I'm
She
really.
was crying. She
Was there
couldn't
not
look
a
at it.
moment? Was there not a moment where she? Or maybe I'm thinking this or remembering this wrong. I thought there
No,
was a
I
moment
think
where
you're thinking
she.
of, I think I know who you're thinking of, but it's not the medic. You're thinking of the bald woman. She's kind of
Oh,
looking at it and relishing it a little bit. The medic is turned away crying. She can't look. She thinks this is all.
okay.
And that's also like again. I actually no, sorry, I was gonna give away something, but actually they haven't told us that yet. And I don't know, maybe it's not gonna be the same. But
Hmm.
yeah, there's tension. You can feel tension between those two.
Yeah.
Um, I thought she came across really well, and I find it really interesting that they're showing Abby's crew to be very sympathetic and empathetic. They're like, we're only here to kill like Joel. We're not here to kill anyone else. And they're trying to temper Abby's worst impulses. We feel that there's more to their relationship, and he's the one the group kind of looked to speak to.
Hmm.
Abby and try and reason with her. Um, and he's the only person who's like, Abby, just do it. You know what I mean? He's the only
Yeah.
person who's trying to actually say something, even though everyone is kind of visibly uncomfortable. Um, I thought the doctor was quite like, even when she said it to Dina, she was like, I swear to God, I'm just gonna put you to sleep. And she was very credible, and you saw Dina kind of
Mm.
relent and just give in to it because she didn't have a move. Like her option was fight and risk getting shot. So but like she was credible. I think it's really interesting how they're kind of being very morally ambiguous about this, in that like there's no, and that's a much more interesting story than just Abby's evil. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
these guys are bad, and we want to see our heroes go out and get them. It's like, no, these guys seem to be quite decent, but their cause is justified in this world. You know, there's you can't go to the police anymore. There's been a murder that's happened. So how do you handle justice? And this is the only route to
Yeah.
justice for them. Um, and
Although I
they
do
all
think
understand.
Abby taking as much time as she did is putting her a bit more into the evil
Yeah, like
category.
yeah, she definitely is. Yeah, but then like also we got to experience her dreams. Like these are the things she
Mm.
thinks about, where she's telling herself, "Don't go in there." His brains are literally on the floor. You know who I'm talking about. You know, and that's what she sleeps with every night. You know,
Yeah.
so like definitely she is twisted by revenge, and I think this is a story that will be very much about the cost of revenge. I think that's a theme that we're gonna look at quite a lot, and how it twists and warps you as a person. Um, but I don't think it necessarily does fully dehumanize you, and I think there are human elements there, and that I think is where Caitlin Denver is achieving with Ali, in that you can definitely see why she's this way. But yeah, she's a bit of a dick about it, you know. Um, I also love the silence where you knew Joel had died, where there's just that stunned, kind of concussive almost silence, um,
Or just Ellie
as
crying.
the club goes in. Yeah, but you can't even hear it. Like it's kind of just, again, it's that kind of high pitch frequency is all we can hear, and it's
Mm.
just like it's done. Like if you were in any doubt, Joel's now dead. That is essentially his pulse we're hearing, you know, and it felt that way. Like it can bring a lot to mind, but it was like, no, it's done. You know, there's no coming back from this. If you thought, because again, a lot of the time our instinct is with these shows is that, you know, it's 24. Jack Bauer can't die. And you would think that with The Last of Us, but
Because I
Joel's
have
dead.
seen reactions of people looking at that on YouTube, and the majority of people are telling, like saying to Ellie, "Don't take the club out. He might still be alive." And there's
Yeah,
still that tiny little bit of hope
I
that they
thought that
have.
as well. Yeah.
They're stunned and can't believe it. They're it's well worth checking out, actually some people's reactions on YouTube to it. But
Interesting.
yeah, I think people, yes, even when the golf club was in the neck, people still had this little glimmer of hope. Was like, maybe they could just take it out. He's still good, right? And as
Just
soon as
but
you
a
get that,
scratch.
yeah, just put a flash wound, and then you get the camera just panning up over the body and Ellie crying, and it's
Yeah.
heartbreaking. Can we talk about the Jackson
We
getting
absolutely can. The Battle of Jackson was what I was going to discuss next. Talk to me.
yeah?
I'll let you take that.
You described this as like kind of like some of the Game of Thrones episodes. I
Yeah.
thought it was like Helm's Deep from Lord of the Rings. It was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because there's that one moment of the bloater making his way through the crowd, and you can just imagine Aragorn be like, "Legolas, take us!" You know, like the guy like running at the Helm's Deep wall with the flare.
Yeah, yeah. I think
um,
I think the way I'd compare it to Lord of the Rings, right? I loved this, by the way, and I thought it was such a nice little value add to the episode, because this was the part for like us where like we know what's coming in the Joel side of things, but this is all new.
it was
And
all
we're
new,
just
yeah.
like, are they gonna do Tommy and Joel in the same fucking episode? Or are they gonna like take Maria and Joel from Tommy? Like, and you're
Mm.
just like, so this is all brand new, and you're like, they're fucking doing Neil Druckmann. He crazy. That's the guy who killed Joel. He's crazy. He'll do it. So I thought that was great. Like the part that I was like that where I'd say it's like Helm Steep is that it is something that a Game of Thrones battle is played for reality. Like, think about Tyrion in the battle at the end of season 2, where like Tyrion has this heroic moment where it's like, there are men out there, let's go kill them. And then everyone's like, yeah. And then 10 minutes later, he just gets knocked out by a horse.
Yeah.
Like, and that'd be what really happens to Tyrion in the battle. You know what I mean? And that's Game of Thrones didn't play it for the entertaining thing. They played it for real. Whereas this was very much in the Lord of the Ringsian sort of way. And I'm wearing a Lord of the Rings top, so I'm a fan. But there were elements of plot armor in this that I'm like, you're executing this so well that I don't mind. But
Yeah.
like, I do have questions about the millions of infected that are just running past Tommy. And they're like, no, 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 that's the bloaters. He said,
Yeah.
that's me. You leave him for me. And I'm like, yeah, there was bits where I was like, but it was so well executed that I loved it. What were your thoughts on this? Because again, like I said, this is all brand new.
Yeah, everything from the barrel, with the way they were able to deploy
Yes,
barrels
that was
down
great.
from it was so sick. I did think it was interesting at the start of the episode, or during the town hall meeting, like you said earlier, like it was a very jovial town hall meeting where they've just learned that there's a new type of infected. Recently, and they were like, nah, it's probably nothing. But we'll just go through this plan at the start anyway, just in case. You're like, okay, shit's about to kick off here. But yeah, it there's the amount of like just little video game moments. I think to me is what I love. Like I know the bloater thing was a little. Well, I say a little. It was very plot armory, but I loved Tommy leading him like you would do in a video game as well into this area where it just felt
Yeah.
like when you go into a certain area in a video game and it's like, oh, this is the boss stage, and you've only
Yeah.
got a certain amount of room to kind of run around a couple of barrels and other bits and
Yeah.
take pot shots. It was exactly like that. This dead end where the bloater just comes down. You're like, okay, shit, here we go, and like the boss
Yeah.
music starts playing. I really appreciated that. Yeah. But I've also had that moment in the game where like you are just firing a flamethrower at this thing and
Yeah.
you run out of gas and you're hoping, oh shit, I've nothing left, and he just manages to die from the burns that are still going on it.
I do want to discuss the strategy when we get to the video game session because yeah, I do that's an interesting one. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
It's just I think a little Easter egg of how like it's a video game. It's not even a spoilery thing of it's just video games in general of little bits of luck that sometimes happen, and
Yeah.
maybe it's jumping the shark a little bit on a TV show, but as an avid video game player, I really appreciated that little moment, and that was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was genuinely a very scary attack. I didn't know what was going to happen, and the brutality of some of this, especially on the aftermath, where it just cuts, and it's such a cutaway shot of the camera panning, and as a guy just shows someone else the bite in his arm, and just gunshot to the head, and that was
Yes.
it. It was
Yes. I noticed that too. That was brilliant.
yeah. I thought that was like really tragic, but very realistic as well. Of just yeah, you gotta take me out. And the amount of corpses that are on the ground is like nuts. And I don't know if it's infected or people from Jackson
Yeah.
as well. But
It's a bit of
one
both.
one thing that really did bug me was Tommy and oh, what's his wife's name again?
Maria.
Maria. They're like embracing, and there's this massive building that's just on fire. It's like, I know you're having this lovely moment, lads, but you need to put it on fire because
That's
you still
John's
live here.
home. That's his home.
Yeah.
His sick mother is in the bed. I can see her in the window waving at us.
Yeah.
Maybe we should stop hugging.
There's a couple of little moments like that. I was like, oh, lads, like, there's a massive fire going on. You still live here.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. There was a lot of notes that I could have given this, all right. But
Yeah.
why I choose, and again, like it's funny for us in this, but I think we mean it. We're coming from a good place of just this is
Yeah.
the funny shit we notice. But like why I forgive it and why I won't have it. And if this was in Game of Thrones, I probably would be disappointed by little things like that. Okay.
Mm.
But the reason that I'm okay with it is because I just wasn't expecting
Yeah.
there to be a battle episode of The Last of Us. It's just
And
not a thing. And
it's
they
pacing as
kept it a
well.
surprise. Like they
Mm.
did, it wasn't even the main thing in the episode. It was just like this,
Like,
holy shit.
was this even in trailers? I don't
No,
remember seeing
no.
much of it in
I think
trailers. Like,
this was a total surprise to me, and I've watched and dissected the trailers and stuff like that as
mm,
well. So I just wasn't expecting. You do obviously get action in The Last of Us, that happens quite a lot, but like it's generally typical zombie. Like this felt it was a bit The Walking Dead, but like I said, it's just such a value add to an already 10 out of 10 episode where you're just
yeah.
giving this bit of extra attention. I also loved, and we'll talk about the bloater. I think we'll save that for the video game section because again, like that's something I did notice as well. But I love the idea of how hard he was to kill and how they established that.
Mm,
Like again, it was just every time you're shooting the bloater, you're just pissing them off basically, rather than anything else. Um, and yeah, just the emotional stakes of what are they going to do here to counterbalance all the people that knew, because it is such a famous moment, but it's again, this is what I love about this show, because you have the creator of the game in Neil Druckmann as one of the showrunners, and then you have this super fan Craig Mazin as the
mm,
other one. And at all times, and we spoke about this in season one, there's like one for the people who've never played the games, and we're going to add this as like something that's nice for people who have played the games. So we're going to give you something extra as well. And they're just thinking about it on both ends, and they're succeeding with everything they go for. And I'd be remiss not to kind of re-mention Mark Mylod's name here. I thought this was expertly pulled off. And again, like kind of the little things you can kind of laugh at or roll your eyes a little bit that you kind of forgive. They're also counterbalanced by like how smart some other bits were. Like you said, kind of the strategy of it all. You know, you expect action in The Last of Us, but you don't expect battle strategy of let's launch the barrels of petrol into the crowd and then let's shoot at it and then let's set it off so we create explosions. And it's like that's kind of battle level death that you do
yeah.
expect in a Helm's Deep, a Battle of Winterfell. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just thought it was such a value add. It really is that's the episode. Like because it
Yeah.
is those two big things. Is there anything else from the episode beyond kind of the video game discussion that you wanted to kind of touch on?
Um, just a little theory, I suppose, of the bloater. Um, do you kind of feel like he's I don't want to say, do you know, in like a game where like you have one character that might kind of is so charismatic, it just kind of like gives the whole army like a bit of a rise and kind of it's kind of sets them off. When the bloater was killed, I kind of felt like that's when they got the upper hand on the horde.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just the way it was edited, but he kind of seemed to be really this figure of pairing the horde nearly. And
Yeah,
I'm
and he was, because I think it's fairly established the runners and everything, especially if you've survived. And I like that because it's
yeah.
internal intelligence of if you've survived. And The Walking Dead, actually, say what you want about the show, and there's a lot of fair criticisms you can level at it, but there was a point in The Walking Dead where they're like, "Hey, we've been alive 10 years. We're good at this. We can kill a lot of zombies like in one go." The people who have survived to this point know how to fight infected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can make allowances for maybe the likes of Dina, like and Dina's established as a good fighter, so I'm not picking on her, but people who are young and may have grown up only in Jackson may not have had the exposure that the likes of Ellie and Joel would have had.
Mm,
But ultimately, like the Tommies of this world, they're going to be able to take out a lot of infected and outthink them because they've survived 20 years of this.
yeah.
25, 26 years of it, actually. I think it's 2029 now in the storyline. Whereas we started in 2003 with the outbreak. So they're going to be good at it. They're going to know how to do it. I allow for that. The dogs, I'm okay with as a kind of a solution.
I loved it. Like
Yeah,
I thought that was great. I had a little cheer when that happened because they were
it
just
could have been shit.
the
It,
CGI in the dogs I thought was great, and
yeah,
the viciousness of them as well. And you're like, okay,
that's yeah.
that really worked for me. I also love that the cordyceps, that idea from season one that they can tell
Yes.
the horde where to go,
Yeah.
because it was originally chasing Abby, and then it nearly directed them from all the stuff in the pipes go to Jackson. and that's when the Horde
Yeah.
attacks Jackson then as well.
And,
That
and
was
and
brilliant.
and we didn't see it. They did, but they didn't need to paint it out. Like that's like it's again. It's kind of we're zombie aficionados now. We're essentially the lad from Zombieland. Do you know what I mean? At this stage, where we know what we do if it broke out. You know what I mean? And there was probably a part of us when COVID happened that were like, are we doing this? Like if you're built like me and Kev, we love our zombie stories. Um,
Mm,
but they're introducing concept, and it's not a zombie show. I remember on episode 2 of this, I actually had because I used to do the Low Blow show with Katie and Keen, but we were all big fans of The Walking Dead, so we'd often end up chatting about that. So I had them on to discuss and compare The Last of Us, and they're like, "This isn't a zombie show. Like, there's zombies in it, but it's not a zombie show." And
yeah,
it's not, but it's still clever enough to introduce new concepts that we even haven't thought of, because it was implicitly inferred that like when the horde adjusted and started moving towards an area of the wall, it was because of the kind of I don't know how it works. I don't know the science of it. There's no science to it. They're zombies. They're not real. But like I don't know what the internal plot of it is. But like they were directed a different way, and they all kind of seem to be operating on the same frequency. But that's what they've established with the first episode of the first season, that this is a hive mindset. This is
yeah.
the cordyceps controls them all, and they operate as a herd. And we do think with that same mindset. So I really enjoyed and appreciated that side of it. It's very fresh and very new to the genre. Despite it ultimately not being a zombie story, it manages to excel in that sense. The dogs, I think, would have been ridiculous if it wasn't executed so well. But that scene of the dog chewing on the Adam's apple of the
Yeah.
infected was just like, this is sick enough that I'm in. I'm
Yeah, like
in. You've got
don't
me.
care. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's I think what this show is. Like there is points where we could like point and laugh or it could lose us, but it just executes everything so fucking well. The
Mm,
actors, the like and everything that they have, the direction, the understanding, the vision is so strong that you don't mind those silly bits. They actually add value to it. There's a coolness to it as well. And again, like it's an extra thing that me and you weren't expecting. We'd never seen this before.
no.
And they gave us kind of a fresh avenue of storytelling, which was much appreciated. Um, that's pretty much the episode. That's as far as like the TV
Yeah.
elements of it. I think we covered it. Like they're the big points. It was mainly just 2 bullet points, but like what a 2 fucking bullet points there was. It was excellent. So we are gonna veer into our video game discussion now. Um, I just need to make some clarity. Person that's only half listening to this, I know because I'm you with a lot of podcasts I do. Pay attention to this part. We're going to talk about video game spoilers now, okay? You're not safe if you haven't played the video game. Switch off and do not fucking moan to me if you get spoiled after this part, okay? We're going to talk about video game spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I can't do my Joel dies bit anymore. I used to love doing that when we do video game spoilers. Now they all know. It's the one
Yeah.
thing that like I lose because of this. Um the bloater, let's talk about that because yeah, I did. I wanted to, and I felt very similar to you in terms of the bloater. Um, it was so they like. I love how some of this feels like they're recreating the levels of the video game. They had it last week
Yeah.
with and it wasn't a specific like for like level, but the Ellie and Dina scene. Um, it felt like a level of the video game we hadn't played. Like I felt like I was in the video game watching someone else play it when they were doing
They were,
the
yeah.
and the
When then
stalker, that whole
and
scene.
was there a part in last week's episode as well where she was looking at a brick and a bottle as well and choosing
Yeah.
which one to do? I think it was
Yeah.
like stuff like that's great because you always pick the bottle, right?
And this is it. There are parts where, again, it's just like that passion for gaming that they just give you. And again, it's in such a way where if you've never played the game, you probably don't think twice about it.
Yeah.
But like, if you played the game, you're like, I've played this level, and like you said, I've literally gotten to the end of my ammo in the flamethrower, and the
Yeah.
bloater's still coming, and I'm just like, I'm dead unless you just happen to drop. And sometimes the bloater just drops, and you're
Yeah.
like, yeah.
He's still on fire, still taking down that tiny bit of damage left to to take him out. And you're like, oh my god, yeah, you have that moment. It's like, shit, no one else can celebrate this. This was just a me moment.
It was brilliant. I loved it.
Mm.
I think like one thing I want to shout out about the game is last week I had a bit of criticism. It wasn't really a criticism. It was just young Mazzino. You know where we know him from, yeah?
No, I know his face does look familiar though.
Beef. He's the
Oh my
doofy guy
god,
in Beef.
yeah,
Yeah. He's hilarious.
yeah.
Um Yeah, so Young Mazzino, again, I was kind of a bit critical of last week where I'm like, he's too serious. Jesse is a piss taker. Um, and we got to see a bit of the Jesse we know this week because Jesse's really likable in the game, but you don't get
Mhm.
much time with him as you like. But he's a piss taker who can really keep up with Ellie, like, and
Yeah.
that's me like that we got to see. Now it was fairly like for like with the video game. And Young Mazzino can do it. So last week I'm like, you've got this really funny actor, you've got this really funny character. Why are we being serious here? Like
Mm.
this show definitely needs levity. So I'm into Jesse. I'm a fan now. I liked the kind of
You kiss my
him getting
girlfriend. That's
to
pretty fucked up.
yeah, you know it's fucked up though.
That
Oh
was
look,
great.
brilliant. Yes,
You got
that's
me.
Jesse. The main thing I kind of want to talk about the video game personally is they made a very distinct choice here to have Dina go off with Joel and not
Mm.
Tommy. So Tommy doesn't witness Joel dying. And instead, we're presumably next week going to see Tommy learn that Joel is dead or get a reaction of some sort. Um, and then as a result, we then don't have Dina going off on her side quest with Ellie. In the game, those two find Eugene's weed lair, I suppose is the best way to
Mm.
put it. And they have like a real bonding session. That's where they solidify that it wasn't just a kiss. They're actually going to be in a relationship. So we lose that and lose Tommy seeing it. It's interesting to me. What do you think the thinking behind this was? Was it to be able
Um,
to have the Battle of Jackson and give them a chance by giving them Tommy, or what do you think?
I think I'm kind of okay with it. I think it gives Dina more of a reason to want to go off with Ellie because she was there
Mm,
and she wants
I
that
agree.
revenge, I think, as well. Um, it's it's a it's probably nearly a better reason than because she just kind of tags along in the game to go with her. I think this has given her a bit more of a reason to go.
Yeah.
Um, and I think Tommy's reaction will he doesn't need to have seen that. I think giving him the Battle of Jackson was a better option, I think, for me. Even
Mm.
yeah, going forward, that's a you can still get to the same place by just switching those couple of things around. I don't think it's going to make a massive amount of difference.
Mm.
Um,
I'm very similar to you. I'm at the stage I'm replaying the game, um, kind of trying to stay one step ahead of the episodes.
yeah,
Although it's tough because they're obviously going to change around the order from the game, and they've done a fair bit already. Um, I'm at the end of Seattle Day One where Dina tells Ellie that she's pregnant, and when you're playing the game, you literally go, "Why are you here? Like, why did you go with her? Like, this is a person that now you learn a bit more because I've done the astronaut scene. Like, that's the last
mm,
scene that I played, where Joel and Ellie, the flashback,
yeah,
that I can't wait to see. I hope they do it this season, and I think they will based on the order of the game. Um, but I'm like, well, why are you here then? Because essentially, this is someone that you've kissed. Like you
yeah,
in the astronaut scene, if you go into Ellie's diary, you can see that this is 3 years previously, and Ellie's writing about Dina. So like, you're like, okay, there's a bit of history with the two of them. There's a friendship there that we didn't really learn in the game until that point. So you're like, right, that makes a bit more sense why Dina would have gone, but if she's pregnant and she's thinking about a potential child, like, why are you here? And yes, it is very clever to have her have a relationship with Joel. Like Joel almost considers her a second daughter.
mm,
So I do appreciate it from that point. Tommy's an interesting one because the reason that Ellie and Dina are able to go in the game is because Tommy fucks off without Ellie. Because presumably he wants to protect Ellie. He's gonna do some fucked up shit, and he's like, I might die, but like he fucks off over. He asks Ellie, "Give me a night to talk Maria into it," and then he fucks off without Maria's permission.
Yeah.
So, and that's obviously there's an element of preserving Ellie, protecting Ellie there as well. But Maria lets Ellie and Dina go to bring back Tommy, not to kill or avenge Joel's death. She's like, bring my dumbass husband home. Um, I feel like that's going to change quite considerably because also in the game, Tommy doesn't have a kid and he has a
I
kid.
was gonna say, yeah,
So do you
yeah.
think Tommy's even going to leave, or do you think we mightn't see much of Tommy for the rest of the season?
I don't think we're gonna see a massive amount of them. I think this is just
Yeah,
gonna be very much Ellie and Dina.
yeah. They go
Now,
rogue.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong about that, but I would be very surprised if Tommy goes out on a big revenge tour, having with this Kate element now as well.
Mm.
And especially after what happened in Jackson and having to rebuild, and really needing to be there as well as as a leader, I think they'll change that dramatically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's also, I'm actually meant to say it in even the main discussion. It's interesting as well that Ellie was meant to go with Joel, and
Mm.
she
She
slept it
wanted
out,
to.
and she
Yeah.
wanted to, and she's gonna be thinking about that, I think, as well.
That is something that they're actually so far they're doing that better than in the
Mm.
game. Ellie's like what we get from Ellie is, and you don't need more than what you get in the game of she watched Joel die in the most sadistic, horrible way. It's actually worse in the game in terms of you get
I was
the
gonna say, yeah.
club over and over and over. And I think that would have been excessive. That would have provoked the reaction. Like when I was talking to Tom last week, he was saying he was a bit worried that it was going to be like Negan and Glenn, and they go
Mm.
too far and then repulse the audience by going too far. I thought the way they did it and the way they tempered it a bit was the right call for the TV show. But Ellie doesn't need any more motivation to do what she does. But now what they're adding to it, because, and I spoke about this last week as well, they took away a lot of the warmth that we get between the two of them at the start of the game. Uh, because we don't have that and there's just tension here. Now Ellie is going to be filled with all this regret and shame and the stuff she couldn't get to say before he died, and she's going to like just be so ashamed of the behavior that she had and her being a pissy teenager. And I know her reasoning is valid, like, um, but that's going to drive her so much. And Dina is going to be so driven as well in a direct way rather than just I'm here because I'm supporting my friend. She now has skin in the game. So
Yeah.
those two characters just became very important. What's interesting is, and I don't know because and I don't want to go and look at the trailer as well. I want to experience it all in real time. We've learned a lot about Abby that we don't learn until later in the game now, and like we said, I think that's a really good choice because I think it softens the heat on Abby.
Yeah.
It sidesteps so much of the toxic discourse we were worried about. And I genuinely think they might avoid a lot of that. Not fully, you can't. It's 2025, but that's not The Last of Us's fault. That's the world's fault. Um, do you think we're going to see more of Ali now or of Abby now? Because they could just have Abby go off and then still kind of do what they did in the second game where we retroactively catch up with Abby, and the rest of the season could be Ellie and Dina. How do you think they're going to play that?
I think we'll get a complete Abby episode at some point this season.
Right. Okay. You're going the other way.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. I think they'll want us to either sit in the uncomfortableness of hanging out with Abby, or kind of make you feel a little bit more understanding of why she did what she did and why she is the way she is as well, and even maybe getting a little bit of like her squad with a little bit of retribution of like, you went too far there.
Mm,
Um, and I think the characters that she is with, her crew, are interesting enough characters as well that I wouldn't mind an episode just all with them.
yeah.
I think as well. I think you'll definitely get, and it's, you know what, it's probably going to be one of those episodes that it's going to be insanely emotional, and we're going to love it and weep about it. It's gonna be
Maybe,
one of them.
maybe.
I've that's my prediction for it anyway.
Interesting. I like. I've implicit trust in any of the decisions this creative team makes. So whatever they decide is the right decision as far as I'm concerned. I'm okay either way. I'm okay continuing Abby's Seattle Day one alongside Ellie's Seattle Day one, or doing Ellie gets an episode, Abby gets an episode. I'm okay doing whatever
Yeah,
way they want and having them be side by side. I'm also okay if we don't see like because I think the end of this season is how far have you gotten into the game? I know you haven't finished the game.
I am not far much further gone than where you're at right now.
Have you played as Abby? Have you got to the stage where you take over as Abby?
Yes.
Okay, so you know this part, okay?
Yeah.
I'm presumably like everyone listening, if you haven't played the full game, I'm now just stalling to give you time to get to the pause button. Okay, so I can't say this because you've got to this part. I think they're getting to the part where Abby, the end of Ellie's Seattle Day 3, where Abby pops back into the story and takes out Jesse and puts
Yeah.
Tommy down. You know what I mean? I think that's the end of the season. Okay, because
Although
it's a good
if
cutting off point.
if he's not there though, is that gonna kind of play out the
Jesse's going to
same
be
as?
there.
Yeah.
Jesse's going to be there. So the end of the
But
season
Tommy
is
though.
Jesse's death.
Mm,
Tommy won't be there, but again, Tommy doesn't need to be there. You can write that scene like she can pin down Dina, and that's fucked up. If Dina's
true.
still pregnant, you can pin down Dina. Cause
Yeah.
that's horrible because she doesn't know she's pregnant. You know what I mean? Um,
And
so
she is such a great actress as well. I love Dina in
I
this.
love her.
She's
She's
brilliant.
brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember the actress's name, but she is
Isabel Merced.
she's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah.
Really, really big fan. So yeah, that might make it actually, you know what? You're absolutely dead right with that.
I think
Um,
it's a natural cutoff point, but I just don't know how we get there. Look, I'm in for the ride. I'm in for the
yeah.
ride. Um, it's time for a thing that I think is going to become a recurring theme that we have to discuss as part of our video game thing, even though it's actually probably more unique show material. Um, Joey Pants is in this season. Um, yeah, he's Eugene.
Oh,
Joey Pants, Ralph Cifaretto is Eugene. um, when are we getting Joey Pants and how? Like, I don't see how Catherine O'Hara and Joey Pants, like, because obviously he's married, Eugene is married to Gail, the therapist. When are we getting this flashback and how does that play into things? Because that's not a video game thing. We know the rough outlines is that Joel killed. So it's tied to Joel. So next week, do we just go away from Joel altogether? And do we just do a Joey Pants episode? Like,
because like it's next week's feels. I wouldn't like next week to have a flashback with Joel in it so soon after he's
yeah,
dead.
you need to feel the loss.
You do, you have to, and like I
Yeah.
think doing that would cheapen that a little bit. So yeah, I have no idea where they're going to go next week, which is one of the most exciting things ever. Because like I had no, I really did think this episode was going to be episode 3, and
Yeah.
we were going to take a little bit more time to get there. But um, yeah, I think it'll be far too soon though for a Joel flashback. Um,
Yeah. They
I think I
they
do think
keep mentioning it. They
I
keep
think we'll.
talking about what Joel did. So I imagine that's we're gonna see that because Gail talked about it last week and then Jesse talked about it this week. We have to see that moment. But how does
Yeah,
that tie? I just don't see how that ties into the story without completely diverting away from
and
where we're going.
if they're gonna do my theory is of doing an insanely emotional episode 3 like the first season.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. A Frank and Bill type episode
Yeah,
that's completely original. But I
and
do
maybe
agree. I think next week we have to feel the loss. You can't just go like, oh, "Hey, oh, it was so sad that you lost Pedro Pascal last week, but we got a whole episode of Pedro Pascal." You know what I mean? You can't do that. But I don't know. Maybe this show can break the rules and just get away with it. Like I don't know. They're good enough to do so.
unless we don't get that at all, like next week is. I do think we're gonna get more Abby next week.
Okay.
I think we're
Okay.
gonna get more Abby, and then just the
What are
coming
you
to
thinking?
terms with.
What are we doing with more Abby? Like, is it just her like going off, or do we see her go back? Because Abby's next, in terms of the video game, Abby's next plot point is her tension within the WLF and where that leads her arc.
Mm,
So we know that what's his name who plays Isaac? Oh my god, why can't Jeffrey Wright? Jeffrey Wright is in this season. So
yeah,
Isaac is in this season. So that probably will I'm guessing that it's not we're gonna get more Abby. And we're gonna get
yeah.
that hint of that.
I think we'll get a bit more of her, and then the Jackson, just the kind of Jackson recovering from everything, and then
Yeah.
we'll have Tommy getting the news broken to him, and we'll have Ellie and Dina.
Funeral.
Yeah, and we'll have them
Yeah.
go off at the end of the episode, and you're like, shit, here we go. I
Yeah, yeah.
I would imagine we'll get that before a Joel flashback. I think they'll even episode 4 still feels a bit too soon for me, but we might get it then.
But
Of
if they go from Jackson, Jackson's effectively done. Like when we leave Jackson, we don't go back
in the game,
in the
not
game.
necessarily
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, it could be a whole
There might
thing.
be
And
more
if you leave
story to
Tommy there,
tell.
then you leave an anchor to it. Like, so
Mm,
yeah, maybe Gail starts being Tommy's therapist and just something there. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. Okay. I don't, and this is what I love. It's something where we know the big picture pieces, but they do the small. From season 1, we know, oh, they can just twist anything and make it
yeah.
amazing. From that Bill and Frank episode, it's still giving us value from this show. Anything else you want to add before we wrap?
uh, no, not something ahead that I can think of. I think I've got everything I
Okay.
wanted to say.
Okay. Same.
Yeah, I think that's it. Oh,
Well,
other TV shows that I'm watching. If we're going to go into that,
what's that?
other TV shows I'm watching. If you want to go into that, but
Yes. What else are you watching? Tell me before we wrap up.
I did get to watch Adolescence, which was fucking amazing. Um, it's like
Yes.
it's I think you said it to Tom last week about it, but it's definitely going to be in our end of year discussion, 100%.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Devil May Cry as well. I finished that on Netflix. If you're into the video game at all, because speaking of video game adaptations, I thought it was a really, really fun show as well. It's an animated show. It's 10 episodes. The needle drops on this thing are, if you watch Kerrang in the early 2000s, it's just every episode has got like, oh my god, I didn't know I needed this song in this scene, but yes, this fucking slams like. So yeah,
Okay.
it's a dumb, violent video game adaptation that's done quite well in my opinion. So yeah, if you're into your video game adaptations and anime, Devil May Cry on Netflix is excellent as well.
Okay. Good stuff. Right. Okay. Kev, great insight as always. Love these conversations. Can't wait to continue to parse through it all. Um, as we go, parse through the tendrils. Tendrils was the word I was looking for earlier. There we go. We got there. Yeah, I dropped my pen. Hey, Kev, fan club playing this
this Friday,
Saturday,
this Friday
Friday
in
in
Cork,
Cork.
in
Whereabouts?
Collins.
There we
It's
go.
it's spelled Coughlin's, but it's pronounced Collins down in Cork, and you will get like absolutely decked out of it if you say it any of the way down there. So
Well,
it's
he's one of the,
Collins.
he may
Yeah.
as well be a local. That's
and
how you charm them.
and
That's how you pack the venue.
you never ask for a Guinness down there. It's mental.
There, limited tickets still available. Ticketmaster.ie. Also, if you can't make it down to Cork, just give them a listen on Spotify and all good audio platforms. Excellent stuff. They will add to your day. Kev, always a pleasure. Follow Kev on social media. We'll tag him in the show links as well. Guys, in the meantime, I'm going to be back probably close to the weekend, if not the weekend itself. Jerry's going to be back in the Starship. We're going back to Starjares are going to tackle the brand new season of Andor. There's 3 episodes every
And wait,
single week. It's going to be unreal. I cannot fucking wait. And we'll be back to discuss The Last of Us between myself, Kev, Tom, and we'll do some team ups as well. We'll do some super
love it.
shows. So I can't wait as we go out covering it. Trying to do every single week, but it's challenging with people having lives and stuff like that. We'll see how we get on. We hope to do so though. Kev, thanks. Always a pleasure for joining.
Thank you very much, sir.
Or for you to join us. In the meantime, thanks for listening, guys. This has been Page 180. I've been Jer Legger. Follow us on socials if you haven't already. Subscribe on Spotify, YouTube if you haven't already. And this is your first podcast. But until next time I'm speaking to you, shut the fuck up and do it already.